Britain voting to leave the EU, EU voters electing more and more anti-Europe leaders. Is there anyone who can unite Europe anymore? Thank you, Donald Trump. United States of Europe making fun of the EU the American way. I'm your host, Greg Shapiro. American first, Netherlander second. Let's get to the EU trade war update in 5 jokes. As the US unilaterally announced it is slapping tariffs on EU steel and aluminum, all 28 EU countries, even the Trumpy ones, even still including the UK, agreed that it is potentially time to strike back with tariffs on American goods, from bourbon to yachts to Harley Davidsons, basically everything but the kitchen sink. Correction, also the kitchen sink. The EU still hopes to avoid a full-scale trade war, confident in the knowledge that anything labeled war requires more basic attention span than Donald Trump possesses. By slapping tariffs on America's closest trading partners, some of the immediate winners have been America's closest trading partners like Mexico. According to Donald Trump, I want to make sure they get as much American money as possible so they can start paying for the wall. Why the trade war now? Well, it could partly be because of the EU's strict new GDPR rules, which just came into effect, giving internet users an unprecedented amount of control over how giant tech companies like Facebook are allowed to use their data, including the demand that tech companies have no access to your data at all in what is called the right to be forgotten. US tech companies celebrated as most internet users applied the right to be forgotten not to themselves, but to the details of the terms and conditions they just clicked on. We are all like, wait, I could have made it so that they can't sell my data? Whatever. Meanwhile, Ireland took a big step away from its strict Catholic past as 66% of the Republic voted to legalize abortion, while Pope Francis said that homosexuality is no longer a sin. The Catholic Church was unavailable for comment as they were busy locking themselves in a cabinet until it could be turned into a time machine that would take them back to the 1950s. From France, perhaps you've seen Malian immigrant Mamadou Gassama in his heroic rescue of a 4-year-old boy hanging from a balcony. And perhaps you've also seen French President Emmanuel Macron granting the man citizenship for his heroic efforts. Basically, to sum up French immigration policy, yes, do this, don't do this. Since President Macron's gesture, climbing practice has begun, with immigrants from all around the world auditioning, leading to a record number of calls to 911. Meanwhile, this man rescued 2 children from a fire in Manchester, but the UK is deporting him. The Home Office said he did not meet the requirements of climbing up 4 stories to rescue the 2 children, videotaping himself while he did it, becoming an internet sensation, and joining Britain's new reality show, Illegals Got Talent. In Spain, Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy was ousted after accusations of corruption. Spanish fans of corruption will just have to keep themselves happy by watching the Champions League. And in some good news on trade between the US and EU, Apple has announced Volkswagen will be its partner in Apple's driverless vehicle program. Now every time you click agree on Apple's terms and conditions, you'll get a dirty diesel car VW couldn't get rid of from 3 years ago in Dieselgate. EU citizens replied, hey, at least it's not another free U2 album.